We're back for our daily NBA best bets here on Thursday, January 8th. We've only got 4 games today in the National Basketball Association. They are the Indiana Pacers taking on the Charlotte Hornets. Miami is in Chicago to take on the Bulls. Cavs at Wolves. And to cap it off with the night game, Mavs taking on the Jazz over at the Delta Center before a very loaded Friday slate tomorrow. Obviously, the big headline yesterday in the NBA and going into today is the Trae Young trade. We had talked about it a little bit in the last couple days, but yes, it's finally happened. Trae Young is going to DC to play for the Wizards in exchange for just CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. I think the Wizards fleeced them. I think Washington's going to be real dangerous going forward in the East. One more tank year. Guys, we know the NBA works. We know now the Wizards are getting a top 3 pick. Okay? They're going to rig the draft lottery for them. I know 2 of the teams are going to get top 3 picks. Pacers, Wizards, we'll see who the third is. But yeah, the Wizards are going to end up with, I don't know, Cameron Boozer, and now they're going to be the favorites to win the East next year with Trae Young. How about George? How about Sar and potentially Boozer? What if they get DeBonsta? And then what if they're trying to get Anthony Davis now too? I appreciate the Wizards for trying to win because then it puts pressure on my favorite baseball team to win in the same city. So honestly, I'm happy for the Wizards. We're going to see an all-time tank job for the rest of the year. Trae just putting up amazing stat lines, but good on the Wizards for doing what they're doing. I'm very happy they're trying to win games. Anyways, folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily NBA best bets here on the channel. Earlier today, our college basketball best bets. Also on the channel, our college football predictions and NFL predictions as well. Okay, on to the first of our 5 best bets today for the NBA. We're going to cover every single game plus 1 player prop. So I'm only going to do 1 player prop today, and I'm just going to pick a winner / spread, winner on each individual game. And then one of those games we'll do a double bet, obviously, with a player prop. Okay, first one, Pacers versus Hornets. It should be an easy Hornets win. And it pains me to say. It pains me to say every single time I have to pick against the Pacers. I know I wasn't right on my last Pacers pick, but at that point, I just wanted the Pacers to actually win a game. Because Rick Carlisle, I'm sure you've seen, has been stuck on 999 wins since 2025. He's been stuck on 1 more win to get to 1,000. The Pacers have not won since December 8th in a home spot, in a home game against the Sacramento Kings. Today is a complete month since the Pacers have won a game, and Carlisle is still yet to reach 1,000 wins. Obviously, Carlisle's job is as safe as ever. This is a planned tank year for the Indiana Pacers to hopefully bring AJ DeBonsta over to Indianapolis. And imagine that, man. Ooh, Halliburton, DeBonsta, Siakam. What if they get a Zubac too? No, Zubac needs to go to the Celtics because after last night, yeah, we need Zubac in Boston. I'm not a Boston fan. I quite a bit of money on them to win the East. Anyways, I'm okay with them. I know they lost to Denver last night. All is fine. Tatum's coming back soon. Pacers versus Hornets tonight. I think the Hornets blow the Pacers out. Okay? Indiana's been playing better at home. I'll give them that, right? Played a very competitive game against the Cavs, albeit without Donovan Mitchell. But a close game against the Cavs a couple days ago. Close game against the Spurs, somewhat, only lost by 10. Magic came into Indiana, only lost by 2 points to the Pacers. They've been playing competitive basketball at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Away from home, though, a little bit of a different story. And Charlotte right now is a team that wants to win, a team that's hungry to win, and a team that, barely just found a way to lose last night. That's not fair. They let it slip. LaMelo Ball, game-winning layup, so we thought. Late spot, 3 seconds left. LaMelo Ball hits a layup to put the Hornets up by 1. And then, or up by 2, actually. And then Emmanuel quickly rises up for 3. He was 2 for 10 from beyond the arc in that game yesterday until the game-winning 3-pointer, and Toronto wins at 97-96. Of course, we had Hornets money line at plus 120. It's okay, though. It's okay. We're going to take Charlotte again tonight. I understand second out of a back-to-back. I'm really not that concerned. I think they're able to get it done here. We've been talking throughout the season and just the last couple of weeks too, especially about how much of a better basketball team the Hornets have been. Colin Sexton last night randomly, by the way, dropped 23 points coming off the bench. The guard play on Charlotte is phenomenal. When you have a guy who's not really being talked about, by the way, Colin Sexton, who I feel like has gotten the connotation around the league that he's kind of washed. He's 27, and sure, he's gotten buried in the shuffle, buried in the mix because he played in Utah last year. Utah obviously is a planned tank year. We talk about the Pacers planning to tank this year. The Jazz plan to tank every year, and that's where Colin Sexton's been stuck at. But now here in Charlotte, he's averaging 15 points off the bench. It's not really being talked about. Yesterday, 22 points off the bench. Big night for him. We know, again, the Charlotte starters who've been killing it this season. I'm talking about LaMelo. I'm talking about Con Knuppel. Con Knuppel with an off night last night, only going 3 for 11 from beyond the arc and 11 points. That means he's due for a bounce-back game today. I don't mind Charlotte. I think this team is progressively getting better and better. When Ryan Kalkbrenner's healthy too, they're even better. I don't think he's playing tonight. Kalkbrenner did not play yesterday, still with that elbow injury. We shall see for tonight. Brandon Miller is not playing tonight. Brandon Miller didn't play yesterday. Maybe plays tonight against the Pacers. I'm not sure. Again, you never know how teams look at injuries for back-to-backs. As for Indiana, Pascal Siakam's great. Andrew Nembhard's doing his thing this season. They're injured. Mathurin, there's talk that maybe Mathurin's played his last game ever as a Pacer because Carlisle said he's going to be out for a while, so we'll see. Neesmith is, doing what Aaron Neesmith does, just not obviously in playoff form because, they're not expected to win this year. And I keep saying it, I feel bad for Siakam because Siakam's, everywhere he's gone, he's won. But it's okay. I mean, this is just a planned crappy year for the Pacers, and next year they're going to be completely back. And next year, I think they're going back to the finals. So, legitimately, Siakam, Halliburton, DeBonsta / Peterson / Boozer, hopefully Peterson or DeBonsta. I think Boozer's great too, but I would rather those two guys fit better with the Pacers. And then just a really good center, Zubac or maybe someone else. I think Zubac's probably going to go to Boston because I believe the Celtics real shortly are going to start to buy. So again, get your stocks in currently on Celtics doing the East. Believe you me on that one. But it is what it is with the Pacers. Siakam's doing his damn thing. It's a shame if he's not an all-star this season. He has to be. I mean, the guy's averaging 24, 7, and 4. I understand they're really bad, but I mean, Siakam has just been so damn good this year. Well, if they do World versus USA, I mean, yeah, Siakam has to be on the World team. He's from Cameroon, so we'll see. Pascal's been playing great. The rest of the team, it is what it is. Charlotte should run away with this one. Indiana's just playing good enough to, just stay in shape and get ready for next season. Give me Charlotte. They're actually trying to win. Charlotte wins, and they cover the 3.5 points, or the 4 points, at home. I'm seeing 3.5 on a couple sites, so take it if you can find it. But give me Charlotte at home to beat the Pacers and cover. Next up, we move on to the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat. I'm going to go Chicago +7. I'm still a little hesitant to pick Chicago and play Chicago just because of the injury situation surrounding this team. Obviously, Josh Giddey and Kobe White are both injured. Potentially, Kobe White returns tonight. I don't know. He did not play yesterday against the Detroit Pistons due to injury management, so I got to assume he's going to play again today, right? I mean, return for the Celtics game, only scored 5 points in 25 minutes, but I think he's got to be back now, right? There's a reason he didn't play the Detroit game. It's because they wanted him back for the second out of the back-to-back. And it makes sense. They didn't think they were going to be able to go to Detroit and beat the Pistons, and they return home. And, okay, now it's a much more manageable spot against a 20-17 Miami team with Kobe White now back in the lineup. So I'm assuming White's back. We obviously know Josh Giddey, who unfortunately is probably going to get robbed of an all-star bid here. He's probably not going to get it this season, unfortunately. But Giddey's probably not going to be back for another about a week. I think Giddey will be back in the lineup. So you're going to see a lot of Kobe White tonight. Okoro, Modest Buzelis, Vooch. I think Zach Collins might be out again tonight. Collins is still out. Man, Jalen Smith out as well. So there goes your depth from the center position. So we have to watch Patrick Williams try to play basketball. Oh, goodness. I'm still taking Chicago. Chicago at home with 7 points is just too many. It's that simple. At home with 7 points is too much for the Bulls. I know last night was not very great for them against Detroit, went on the road and lost by 15 points, but you look at the games Chicago, for the most part, puts together at home. I mean, how they proved me wrong back on the second when they played the Orlando Magic. I thought Orlando was going to go right through that team, and obviously an injured Bulls team, and yet Orlando wins on the road by 7 points. Sorry, Chicago wins at home by 7 points against, obviously, the road team in the Orlando Magic. So they're just a difficult team. Miami, obviously, is much more healthy than they were a couple weeks ago. Hero's fully back in the swing of things, and when this team is healthy, starting lineup of Davion Mitchell, Tyler Hero, Norman Powell, Andrew Wiggins, and Bam Adebayo is scary. That's a good starting five. Miami currently, I believe, what are they, the 8? Yeah, they're the 8 seed currently in the Eastern Conference. Chicago is the 10. Of course, the big three every single year in the play-in. Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, they're there every single season, and Orlando's tied with the Cavs right now for the 7 seed. So all 4 of them might come home this year and just be in the play-in. We shall see, because if Giannis stays in Milwaukee, I would assume the Bucks are, regardless of how bad they are, I assume the Bucks are going to find their way into the top 10, especially if they can trade for a guy like Anthony Davis. I don't know. Hey, just send Miles Turner's ass the hell out of town, and then I'll start liking the Bucks a little bit, and just get Oladipo there. Anyways, I'm going to take the Bulls to cover at home. We know what the Bulls do. They run, they get in transition, and they don't let their foot off the gas. And sometimes it comes back to bite them in the ass because they do play so aggressive all night long, and that leaves obviously open opportunities on the other side of the court after they score. You can, if you want to play them back in transition, obviously, it's fairly easy to do so. So obviously a lot of Bulls games are high scoring, but again, at the same time, it is hard to get away from Chicago because of how much they score. Miami coming off a loss on Tuesday in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. Lost again 94-122 in Minnesota. Norman Powell went out there and scored 21 points. And Norman Powell, I mean, what can I say about this guy? He's been phenomenal. If he's not an all-star, it's a shame. Got robbed of an all-star appearance last year with the Los Angeles Clippers. Has to be an all-star this year, right? Averaging 24.5 points per game. He's been the best player on Miami all year long. And sure, the big scoring nights are are much there for Norman Powell. Scored 34 against New Orleans a couple nights ago. Scored 36 on the road against Detroit on New Year's Day. That's always a factor, and it's always, something that we got to watch out for Chicago, because obviously there's no defense that's usually played for the Bulls, and that's always kind of a concern. But I do believe the high-scoring nature of Chicago should be able to keep them in this game. Coby White likely playing, and obviously White makes them a better team when he's on the court. Coby averages 18.5 points per game. There's a reason he did not play yesterday. He's not getting an injury assignment or designation for that game against Detroit. They just said injury management. So obviously that just means, we don't want him to play the first night of a back-to-back. We think we can win the Miami game more than we think we can win the game in Detroit. And again, like I said earlier, that makes sense. And I would expect Coby White to play much better than he did in his return game against Boston. Again, 25 minutes, 2 of 7 from the field, 1 for 5 from beyond the arc, and 5 points, and got into foul trouble as well. He had 4 fouls. I don't think he's going to do that again. I think we see a much better Coby White tonight. And I know, again, Miami's very capable. I am a little concerned about the big play here because, I mean, the second unit for both squads, we're going to see, well, notice in general, Miami plays huge because they start Khalil Ware and Bam Adebayo. Oh, wait, no, but Hero's playing tonight, so definitely not. Or, no, they've been using Hero off the bench. Regardless, there are going to be spots where there's going to be Ware and Bam on the court at the same time, and then Vooch and Matas Buzelis. And it's not like, oh, okay, we can just bring in Jalen Smith. We can bring in Zach Collins. They're both not playing tonight. We're going to have to get through some Patrick Williams minutes tonight. But I think Chicago can keep this game close. I'm going to go Bulls +7. Obviously not expecting them to win the game at all. I just need Chicago to play a competitive game tonight. I think they can do so. +7 for the Bulls at home at the United Center. On now to our third best bet of the video. We move to another money line play. The aforementioned Minnesota Timberwolves are at home in the Target Center against the the Cleveland Cavaliers. Wrong LeBron James team. Give me Minnesota to win at home at -145. If you want the -2.5, I think that's more than playable as well. So pick your favorite on that one. I'm taking Minnesota though to win the game outright at -145. Minnesota's just better than Cleveland, much better. The Cavaliers have been a disappointment all year long. I understand they've been dealing with some injuries. You lose some bench pieces, obviously, to both injury and obviously to the Memphis Grizzlies as well, as we're talking about Ty Jerome. But Cleveland tonight, 21-17. We talked about their last game a couple days ago, going to Indiana and playing the Pacers. Donovan Mitchell was ruled out for that game. In Cleveland still wins the game by 4 points, despite Mitchell not playing. Didn't cover, but it's okay. Darius Garland scored 29 points. Anyways, it looks like the Cavs are going to be fairly healthy for this spot, at least with their starting lineup. And the only missing starter is going to be Dean Wade. Wade's going to be out with the knee injury, and they're missing some bench pieces like Max Strus, who's been out, obviously, for a while and will still be out for quite a bit. And then Larry Nance, I think, may not play tonight as well. For Minnesota, so obviously, again, no Dean Wade for Cleveland. Minnesota, a fairly healthy group going into this one. I think Terrence Shannon's the only injured player they have, obviously, because he's out for a while. Yeah, Minnesota's at pretty much full strength. DiVincenzo at the 1, Ant, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert. I got to take Minnesota here. Got to take Minnesota at home. The Timberwolves are a good team. They really are, man. I mean, this team does have their random games where they slip up and lose. And obviously, coming off of Christmas, they were playing bad basketball for one game. They lose to Denver in that crazy overtime game where Ant got ejected and Scott Foster in the NBA ensured the Denver Nuggets won. And then Minnesota loses to Brooklyn on their own home court. Ant comes back in the locker room or after the game and says, well, yeah, I don't blame the fans for booing us. We're playing like ass right now. Since then, Minnesota has gone on to win 4 of 5 games, beating the Bulls on the road, losing in Atlanta randomly to the Hawks, and then wins on the road against the Heat and the Wizards, and then a victory on Tuesday against Miami yet again. And Anthony Edwards, I mean, at his best, man, this is one of the best players in the NBA, a top 5 player in the league, man. Anthony Edwards every single year, and this is unfortunate, but it's the truth. And this is not Shea Glaze. I'm serious. It's not Shea Glaze. But Anthony Edwards, I believe, unfortunately, for the rest of his career, is always going to get outshined by Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And I hate that that's a thing, but it's the truth. And I don't, Ant, obviously, there's a very, Ant did, it was a commercial or whatnot, saying he should win the MVP and whatnot. This was obviously before last season. And like he was the best player in the league, best player in the West, obviously. But I will say, Ant's been very complimentary to Shea. He's called him the MVP last year and whatnot. But my point with all this being is Ant's a phenomenal player, and it is a shame that he's just going to get overlooked because of what Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is doing at OKC and what happened last year in the Western Conference Finals as well, and will likely happen again if OKC and Minnesota meet in the postseason. And I understand the Thunder just played a very competitive game yesterday against the Jazz. We're going to talk about the Jazz in a little bit. That game was way too close for comfort if you are an OKC fan, but it is what it is. Honestly, though, here's the thing. For as close as that game was, you got to see Shea drop 40+ and have to win a tightly contested game, something that the Thunder don't get all that much. And I know they've been playing tighter games. They've been playing much more competitive games against teams they should easily beat, but still they win. And Shea, game-tying midi to send the game into overtime, and then obviously they ice it in OT. Shea with 46. But that's my point with Ant, right? Ant's a phenomenal player. He's averaging 29 points per game. This last 5-game stretch has been crazy. I mean, Ant's been putting up 30 bombs in every single game, it feels like. Shea does that every night, though. And, it's to the point now where, okay, wow, Ant drops 35. Shea casually drops mid-30s every single game. And last night he drops 46, and it's not even really being talked about because, he shot 17 free throws, which is fair. But, I mean, every good player in the league has a good whistle to some extent. I don't know, and that's just my thing with Ant. He's a phenomenal player. He's great. Is Minnesota ever going to win anything? And that predates, obviously, Ant. That goes back to Kevin Garnett, and just the Timberwolves have never been able to win anything. This franchise has been doomed since its inception. But I just don't know how he surpasses Shea, and I don't want to say he's in his shadow. Ant is 3 years younger than SGA, but you got a guy on the best team in the NBA who's averaging 32 points per game, and Ant's great. He's averaging 29, but he plays in Minnesota. I don't know. I just want to put that out there because I feel like Ant doesn't really get talked about enough. I know, again, he's widely regarded as one of the best players in the league. I don't think people understand just how good Edwards is in terms of, an all-time perspective. It's just that he plays in an era that has SGA as the by far best guard in the league. And also, Luka plays in the same conference as well, who I understand Luka's low-key working his way into being underrated currently. That's just a thing. He averages 34 points per night, and he's underrated because... statistically he's not great. He shoots so many shots. The production out of Luka is still insane. Anyways, I feel like it's kind of a rough go of things for Ant sometimes. And Luka did eliminate him the year before too. So I guess you got to win in the playoffs. Anyways, though, I'm taking Minnesota tonight, man. The Timberwolves have been playing good basketball. Went on the road, won back-to-back against Miami and Washington, obviously pre-dangerous Wizards. And then a game most recently against Miami. And then who makes these schedules, by the way? Miami, Washington, Miami, and then Cleveland at home, and Cleveland then on the road on Saturday morning on Amazon Prime. Why? Who does this stuff, man? The scheduling is so stupid. I'm gonna take Minnesota at home. They're better than Cleveland. It's been a disappointing year it's been a disappointing season all around for the Cavaliers. 21-17. Donovan Mitchell is playing good basketball, I will say, but the consistent injuries to Darius Garland is kind of brutal. And Mitchell's averaging 30, but same thing goes with this Cavs team as last season. Do you really believe this team can win in the playoffs? And this year, they don't get the benefit of being the number 1 seed. Obviously, Halliburton and the Pacers got them in the second round. There's a very good chance Cleveland's going to be a 4 or 5 seed in the first round of the playoffs, and then they're going to have to go play. Here's the thing. Do they even beat the Sixers in a 7-game series? And do they even get out the play-in? Probably. They're probably not going to have to play the play-in itself, but I don't know. I'm not too optimistic about what Cleveland's doing this season. It's been disappointing to say the least. They're only 4 games over, especially after what they did last season. They almost have the same amount of losses as they did last year, and we're only in January. I'm going to take Minnesota tonight. And those guys are playing fairly good basketball. I'm still a little on Julius Randle at times, but give me Anthony Edwards to lead the Timberwolves to victory tonight. Ant and the Wolves get it done at -145 on the money line. On now to our 4th best bet of the video, our only player prop of the day, Anthony Davis. Give me 80 over 37.5 points and rebounds. I know this isn't always a line 80 hits. He's going to tonight, I think. Since AD, has come back from injury, 3 games against the Sixers, Rockets, and Kings. So we're going to look at all 3 of these games as we approach this matchup against the Utah Jazz. Something that we do need to say before, though, I look into the stats is it's a Jazz game, up-tempo. Jazz don't really play defense, and they are coming off the second night of a back-to-back. So it will be easier for Anthony Davis to score. And I'll say this outright right now, it's a very favorable matchup for AD. Nurk isn't bad, man. I don't mind Nurkic at all, but there are going to be spots and there are going to be times in this game where Kyle Filipowski is going to be matched up on Anthony Davis. Okay? There are going to be spots where that's going to be, where Filipowski's going to have to straight up guard AD in the post and get rebounds over Anthony Davis and try to box out Anthony Davis. Unfortunately for Flip, I don't know if that's going to really go his way, but I just need to put that out there right now. So, last 3 games for Anthony Davis coming off of injury. Obviously got injured on Christmas Day against the Golden State Warriors. Plays against the Philadelphia 76ers on New Year's Day. 37 minutes, 13 points, 8 rebounds. That's expected. First game coming off of injury. It is what it is. Next game against Houston. Big spot for AD. Plays 39 minutes. So, again, no minutes restriction at all for Davis with Dallas. And we'll talk about the trade stuff in a second. But AD, 26 points and 12 rebounds against Houston at home in a big victory for the Mavs. Obviously goes over the player prop. That's math 38. Yes, 38 points and rebounds for Anthony Davis. Next game against the Sacramento Kings, 19 points and 16 rebounds in 36 minutes. I understand that is slightly under. That's 35, I think, math. Yeah, 35 PR. It is what it is. He didn't get scoring as much as, obviously, AD would have liked. They're playing Utah, guys. And yes, it's at elevation, but obviously elevation is not a factor for Davis this season because he has dominated somehow, some way this year in Denver, Colorado, playing the Nuggets. But I don't mind the spot at all for AD. Second out of a back-to-back for the Jazz, a team that I don't think is going to be too, going to be on, the heaviest of legs just because they're used to this. They play at elevation all the time. They played last night at OKC and did have to go into overtime. And what a fight that was for Utah yesterday against the reigning champs. I'll get to that in a second, obviously, because it's no secret. This is the game we're going to do 2 best bets on. But I really like the matchup for Anthony Davis. Regardless of Nurkic or Filipowski, we know, again, AD is going to be matched up against both of them at different parts of this game. And Nurk, honestly, has played good basketball this year. Having to replace permanently Walker Kessler this year as the starting center for the Jazz, I think Nurkic has actually done a really great job. But it is Anthony Davis. It is Anthony Davis, and I think we're going to see about 15 rebounds tonight for AD because it is the Jazz and because they don't use much of the shot clock. They're an up-tempo team. I think we're going to see 15 boards out of AD, which makes the points fairly easy. Not easy, but it makes it easy enough for AD. Again, if he has 15 boards, we only need 23 points tonight out of Anthony Davis. I understand he averages 20, but it's against Utah. You're going to see a lot more going on for Anthony Davis, as, by the way, he's on his 4th game of his return from injury since the Christmas Day game at Golden State. Now, there is a lot of discussion about the Anthony Davis trade conversation. I don't know if it's going to happen. I just don't know, because we're seeing those rumors now that the Wizards might want to have Anthony Davis. And that the Hawks, it's really the Hawks, but the Wizards potentially I saw were kind of in on AD as well a little bit. It's probably the Hawks, though, right? And they were freeing up money and they want to go re-sachet for Anthony Davis. I could have sworn somewhere I saw Wizards, though, for AD. I saw it somewhere. But again, it's primarily the Hawks. Warriors are involved as well. I would love Boston. They could probably, I don't know how the hell they could afford it. But anyways, AD is probably going to move eventually, I think. I don't know. It's just... We'll see, because if the Hawks are persistent enough, I think they're going to get Davis. If they say, okay, we'll give you Risa, we'll give you some other stuff as well. If you're the Mavs, why wouldn't you turn? I mean, but again, I've talked about this before. Like, the Mavs obviously have to value AD somewhat, but it's a new staff, new GM. Obviously, Nico Harrison is gone. You got to think, okay, now how do they approach things? Because they're not looking at Anthony Davis at the same level and at the same value that Nico Harrison saw him for. Obviously, trading Luka Doncic for the guy. Regardless of all that, though, we'll see where AD's future does hold. As for tonight's game, I do believe we see Anthony Davis go over 37.5 points and rebounds. It's against the Jazz. Games are super up-tempo. And for as good as Nurkic has played this season, A, he's still no Walker Kessler, and B, this is Anthony Davis. It should be a matchup that AD should be able to dominate for the most part, I would think. And also, the Filipowski matchup off the bench, yeah, give me that one as well for AD. Anthony Davis tonight in Utah at the Delta Center, over 37.5 points and rebounds, currently listed at -115. On now to our final best bet of the video, of course, staying with this Mavericks and Jazz game. I'm taking Utah +8, man. I know they failed us a couple days ago in Portland, and of course, just because this is how the NBA works, right? One night, you're getting blown out in Portland against the Blazers, and shout out to the Blazers yesterday for coming through against the Houston Rockets. I saw that one coming, but yeah, it's just how the NBA works. You go one night, you can't buy a bucket against the Blazers. Portland's dominating you. And then the next night, two days later, you're going to OKC and almost beating the Thunder. Obviously, Utah is up 2. Markkanen hits a big shot or a big layup, obviously, catches an air ball and goes reverse layup, hits the lead taking shot with 2 seconds to go. And then SGA obviously does Shea Gilgeous-Alexander things, finds a mid-range to tie the game. And obviously, overtime, OKC wins the game. But a very valiant performance for the Utah Jazz. Lauri Markkanen scores 29. I mean, empty stats, sure, but big game against OKC. Markkanen plays well. He is still capable of putting up big performances like that against teams and games in which actually matter. But it is what it is. Utah with a big victory. Can they do it in back-to-back nights? I think they can. I said it's a victory. It felt like a victory. They don't win, but Will Hardy gets his guys going. They don't win the game, but they stay in it. And honestly, that's what the Jazz organization wants. That's what the front office wants. We want competitive games. We want Lauri to look good. We want Keontae to play well enough. Walter Clayton played a pretty bad overtime period, but we want our guys to show up. Sensa Ball's looking really nice too. But we want our guys to show up, and we want to lose, because if our pick's outside of the top 8, it goes to OKC. Utah wants no part in winning basketball games this season. So again, we're hoping for the Jazz's ideal scenario tonight. You play the game tight, and then you lose it at the end. I mean, that was the Clippers game that I went to on New Year's Day. Obviously, the Jazz proceeded to not cover the spread because they were winning in the fourth quarter, and then they proceeded to not cover 15.5 points. They were up with 8 minutes to go, and they ended up not covering 15.5. It was a dandy of a time I had, my first ever experience at the Intuit Dome. Anyways, that's the Utah Jazz experience, though. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't know how anybody's a Utah Jazz fan, because I would feel like, I feel like I'd be, going insane if I was a Jazz fan. And I'll say this too, like, if you watch the videos, obviously it's no secret that I'm a Lakers fan, right? And, I like the Lakers. Obviously, I've been a Lakers fan my entire life, obviously since Kobe Bryant and whatnot. But if I was a Jazz fan, I would lose my mind. But here's the thing, I'm a Lakers fan, but obviously I'm not like the Lakers like I am with the Washington Nationals. And if you've watched the channel during baseball season, well, I recommend it. It's one hell of a time, because there's not a sport I love more than baseball. But anyways, if you watch these videos, you know how, I go batshit crazy watching the Nationals on a daily basis. I lose my mind watching the Nationals. But again, I'll say this. If I was a Jazz fan, and if I was as big of a Jazz fan, obviously I'm not a Jazz fan, but if I was as I am with the Nationals, I would go insane, because at least the Nationals, I watch my team suck every day, but at least James Wood's out there and we're still losing. Abrams is playing, Cruz is playing, and I'm watching Mackenzie Gore and whatnot, and we're still losing games. And I can I hate to watch it, and I'm like, oh, my team sucks. I absolutely hate it every single day. But at least the guys are trying and the best guys are on the field. For the Jazz, most nights their best guys don't play. So this is always a scenario I have to bring up every single time we take the Jazz in anything. Wait until you know who plays. Because especially with this being the second out of the back-to-back, and the Jazz are looking at this one, okay, we've lost 5 in a row. We're completely out of the conversation now for a play-in, because don't forget, before this 5-game losing streak, the Jazz were well in it for a play-in spot. They're going to look to lose this game, and there's a chance they rest a bunch of guys. I'm talking Keontae George, who is at the young age of 22, who needs to have injury management for an injury he's never had ever before. Lauri Markkanen's randomly going to pop up with a knee injury. Ace Bailey's going to be sick, right? Walter Clayton's going to be sick. And then all of a sudden, okay, Kyle Anderson's playing 28 minutes like he did against the Clippers. So I will say this now. That's a warning. I am taking Jazz +8. But make sure you know who plays, and make sure it's confirmed who is or is not playing for the Jazz tonight, because this is a team that wants to lose. Now, when they play their best players, those guys try, and then, at the end of games, the front office is just, biting their fingernails, hoping, okay, we just need to lose. We need to lose. We need to lose a close game, because they just want their picks. It is what it is. And obviously, the Jazz have tanked for years, but especially this season, too, with they can't have a higher than, if they have higher than 8, it goes to OKC and the rich get richer. I think they can play the Mavs, somewhat competitively. Dallas, and just looking at this from a basketball perspective, Dallas just played a very tough game against the Sacramento Kings. They win it. Sacramento had 3 chances to win the game as time expired, or obviously before time expired. Dallas missed 2 free throws at the end of the game, gave Sacramento one more shot at it, and of course, DeMar DeRozan's taking a game-winning 3. Oh, that's great. But the Mavs have still not played great basketball since Christmas, or including Christmas. They've lost 4 of 6. Back-to-back wins going into this one, beating the Rockets by 6 and the Kings by 2. I know the Rockets are much better than Utah is, but they haven't covered. When was the last time the Mavericks have covered a -8 spread against anybody? You got to go back to December 3rd against the Miami Heat. and they won by 10 back then. I mean, it's hard to, for a team that loses so much. I know, again, there's talent on the team, Cooper Flag, Anthony Davis, but for a team that loses so much, it's hard in the NBA against another professional team to, one, just win, but two, then win by 9 points. Yeah, I got to go with the Jazz here tonight, +8. Again, though, make sure you know who plays for Utah, because this team loves to tank. Give me Utah +8 at home from the Delta Center. Folks, thank y'all for watching our NBA Best Bets here on January 8th. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you did screw thing the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more daily NBA Best Bets. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.